Everybody on there already? What's going on, good people? Trying to get my camera correct. I'm in a hotel room, and of course, I'm a Washington D.C. guy. So, what is going on with this camera? Trying to put the light on here. I'm in a hotel, so I have to. The lighting isn't so good in here. All right, there we go. Good. Got the lighting right. Got the Commanders back there losing. Washington Commanders fan. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Commanders fan. And they're back there taking a licking. I try to gotta, I mean, it's new. What's his name? What's Josh Daniels, whatever his name is, whatever. He's pretty good, our quarterback. I love sports, man, but I don't have much time to watch sports. So, what is his name? Jaden Daniels. I said Josh Daniels. Jaden Daniels, good kid. But today, Green Bay was much better. Jordan Love was picking them apart. Looked like the Commanders' defense couldn't do anything. Even with Debo Sanders and Terry McLaurin, they couldn't get going. I don't know anybody on the defense. I think one guy, Payne, he was pretty good. I think he's defensive line. And then Bobby Wagner, the linebacker. I know who he is, but these guys suck, man. Now, today they did. Everybody has a good day, everybody has a bad day, nonetheless. So, welcome to the channel, everybody. I don't know who's on here who have seen me before, who knows me. But my name is the security. Well, I got a bunch of names now. So I used to call my channel, my Instagram channel, the Security Czar, and this channel was once called the way I see it with the Security Czar. And then I just changed it to the Goat TV because the Goat was my logo. And I wanted to make my YouTube name really simple for people to find versus the way I see it with the security. It was just a lot to say. It was cool, but it was a lot to say. But it also described the way I see things. And um, that's the premise to my channel. I am a law enforcement expert. I spent nearly 20 years in the Washington, D.C. Police Department. I was the youngest person to ever be promoted to sergeant, lieutenant, or captain. I retired as a police captain at the age of 35. I worked alongside of the Secret Service, the State Department, the Capitol Hill Police, and all the other three-letter organizations that are our government in Washington, D.C. So I did that for nearly 20 years. Mm. So I did that for nearly 20 years, developed a lot of relationships, started my own security firm, and um, my intention was to get into executive protection, but I didn't think as broad as my success when I first started. So I just knew I wanted to be in executive protection. I know I wanted a celebrity client, and that was it. I got into the profession, got my first celebrity client, worked with guys who had started companies from the Secret Service. Um, After they retired, in their companies, learned on the fly, learned from them. I then went into doing celebrity security, local celebrity. Then it was national celebrities and international celebrities. So that's where I learned this business. But I always tell people when you get into this business, not to be typecast, right? Because it's pretty much like I said, if Denzel Washington or wanted to get a Chris Tucker role or Chris Tucker role, he could easily get that role. He could play Chris Tucker. He could play a funny role. He could play a dramatic role. He can play a theatric role. That because he is that much of a developed, what do you call it, actor. But Chris Tucker is only typecasted in one role. You will never see him do anything remotely like a Denzel Washington role. It's simply comedian was his thing. It was his genre, I guess, and so in entertainment. So that was his thing, and he never scaled up to a Denzel Washington. But Denzel can play from a comedian to a janitor, um, to a mafia boss, and law. He just crossed all platforms. So I say that to say a lot of people get into executive protection thinking thinking the bodyguard, tough guy, muscle bound person that pushes people out of the way and tell them that they can't have a picture or an autograph with their client or their principal. So yeah, those kind of guys, and those guys, they may be good in their own right, but they don't get any kind of training at all. And I've had people 18, 20 years. I asked them what training school they went to. They look at me like I'm a dog with two heads. Training school? I've been doing this for 20 years. It's pretty much what they say. And they have. You had to this point, if they had no incidents at all, they've been lucky. But I beg to ask you, what kind of professional in any profession goes and goes to that profession and decides not to develop themselves or excel at all? Just they're good enough on their talents. If these guys back here on the TV set, if they just showed up on their talent, their ass be on the bench or fired before the end of the game. These guys don't. You don't get on television just by on your talents alone, your looks alone, or who you know alone. Unfortunately, in this industry, a lot of people have got into places they probably shouldn't be based on their talent and who they know alone. I believe it has diminished the executive protection industry. I believe that this is a reason, or there this is a reason that the industry is like it is. That's why we have so many incidents with people being sued, incidents that we see on the television set. If they're security agents or bodyguards or executive protection agents are assaulting people, if they're pushing people, if they're moving funny and they're getting their clients or their principals injured, hurt, or killed. I believe all of that is the result of this. The guy say, "Hey, I'm a police officer. That's good enough." Guy say, "Hey, I was in the army." No, even though he was a chef in the army, but because I went to boot camp and I trained at boot camp to be a soldier, that that qualifies me to be an executive protection agent. Or likewise, police officer, or I worked in the club, or I work with this entertainer, that qualifies you to be an executive protection agent. In order to be at the top of your game, you have to invest in your craft. So um, I say all of that to say, I see people after this Charlie Kirk thing saying, if I was there, they do what I do. But I feel like theirs was almost kind of self-promoting and pompous, right? If I was there, this wouldn't have happened. I'm gonna be honest. I've been on assignments all week long. I mean, 20 hour, 18 to 20 hour days all week long. Some of the people who were on that detail, we had three different details going on. Some of those people who are on those details are probably on this live right now. I haven't scrolled through to see who's on it, but I'm almost certain that they're on here. And they work those same 18 to 20 hours a day for 7 days straight. So I am completely burned out. I don't know if you guys can see. I don't know if my eyes look red. I came in before this live. I took a quick nap. It was ended up being 2 hours. So uh, I haven't eaten, but I'm here. I wanted to talk to you guys. I wanted to talk to you guys about this Charlie Kirk thing. I don't know who. I don't know which who of you have seen that. I'm sorry. I need to get a production person in this joint. This light just keep falling off. Okay. Um, I don't know how many of you have seen the video. I'm certain everybody's seen it. It's an international worldwide event. Um, but it's absolutely crazy. And I've seen people saying, "Hey, if I was there, me and my team, the team did this, the team did that, they were wrong, blah, 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 blah." Sounds good in theory. In theory. So I did an interview today with a major media outlet, international media outlet. And I also did an interview. So I don't know if you guys seen it. If you When you get off of here, go into my community to post where I post on my YouTube page, and you'll see there's an article by the Washington Post. They interviewed me about what's been going on in the industry over the last 24 months. So starting back with I think it was November when the United Healthcare CEO was murdered. And so it went there. We also, it even goes back further to the two assassination attempts on President Donald Trump, then the United Healthcare CEO assassination, and then you had two Minnesota congressmen, Congress members, a husband and a wife, who were murdered in their own home while the police watched it happen. Earlier that morning, you had a Minnesota senator, assassinated, or well, him and his wife shot in their own home by the same guy who assassinated the Congress members. Then we had the incident at the NFL headquarters and the CDC, and now Charlie Kirk. And you know, when you start thinking about this stuff, this is the new norm. This is the new norm for CEOs. So I did it. I did it. A interview with the Washington Post. They interviewed me about what's going on. How do we prevent it? How did we get here? What needs to happen? And then they interviewed me about the MVP School of Executive Protection. And I don't know if you guys know, it's the fastest growing executive protection school in the world. And that article is about that. But if you click on the community tab on my YouTube page, you can see there are some pictures to give a glimpse of it. But you also can click the link and read the article for yourself. So since this stuff has been happening, my phone has been blowing up. We have been getting new business every day. Every day, corporate executives are starting to wake up. They're starting to understand that this is the new norm, and that where many of them believe that people don't know them, they are people who absolutely know who these people are. If they didn't, you or I, if it wasn't for Luigi Mangione assassinating Brian Thompson in New York, we would have never even known what Brian Thompson looked like. They could have flashed, they could put his picture on the news every day for something good or otherwise, and we would never know who he was. But until Luigi Mangione went to New York and assassinated him, is then when the world realized who Brian Thompson was. Now, anytime you see a picture of Brian Thompson, you be like, oh, that's that United Healthcare guy. Okay, I say all of that to say this stuff is we call it protective intelligence or open source intelligence. Is how people find information. Us as security professionals can use it, but also the common person and criminals can use it. Open source intelligence. I'm going to have a professional to come on and talk about it, talk more about it. One of my colleagues, and you guys will really get a kick out of it and see how this stuff works. But these guys who do these type of crimes or acts or whatever you want to call it, these guys are professionals at what they do. They do homework. So in executive protection, we call it advanced work. We call it risk assessments. We call it threat assessments. That's what we call it. We go to places that we're going to go to before we even go there. And the reason is we don't we want to be ahead we want to be ahead of the people who would harm our principals or ourselves or our teammates, right? So we're going ahead. So let's say we're going to London. A team of us will go to London before we go to London. Okay. When you look at the United Healthcare, before I move that, we're going to London so that we could understand our assignments, the threats against our assignment, the risk that's there, and the vulnerabilities in our protection that we need to either shore up or decide if we're not going to go. So that's called risk management, right? You got risk acceptance, risk avoidance, risk transfer. Um, and these are different ways that you can manage the risk. We'll say, okay, the risks are minimal, we'll go. But and then you say, okay, that's risk acceptance. Risk avoidance is say, listen, we're not dealing with it at all. Risk transfer is say, okay, we're gonna still go on this trip, but instead of the CEO going or the COO going, we'll send like the third or fourth man down on the C-suite to go with them and put some executive, put some agents with them, make sure they have secure transportation, et cetera, et cetera. So this is called advanced work, right? This is risk assessment, threat assessment, advanced work. When you see men and women who really do this job, that is the basis of everything we do. When you see us walking through the crowd, or you see, and I don't say us because this is, I mean, this is what I do. But when you see people like me, let me say that. When you see me walking through a crowd, you'll see suit and tie guys move totally different than the t-shirt and jeans guys, if that makes sense. But those guys that separate the professionals from the imitators, those guys put a lot of work in on themselves. So when I say that, you have to put the work in on yourself, because the person who assassinated Brian Thompson, he did a lot of work. If you go back and watch the news interview, the news articles about this or videos about this, he went to New York. Before he went to New York, he knew what hospital he was going to stay in. He researched 3D printing guns, 3D printing firearms, 3D printing silencer. He knew where to get the bullets, where to gun, what train to catch, all this stuff, how to get the bikes, which way he was going to leave, right? But you guys, a lot of guys just show up to assignments, none of that information. But this guy has done homework. He went there before he went there. And then the next morning when he went to kill Brian Thompson, he was there an hour and one half early. Hour and one half times early before Mr. Thompson even walked down the street. And the other part of the research that he did was go on United Care's health site, see what events they were having, where they were going to be, what time they were going to be there, um, and who was going to be speaking at these events. And lo and behold, what do you think that he found last November? Brian Thompson at the Hilton Midtown, New York, speaking. Time on the schedule, and he was there an hour and a half before Brian Thompson's even walked down the street, and he assassinated him. And now I was in New York. I have pictures and videos on my phone that I actually did a live from that location. There are still the concrete chips out of the concrete for where Brian Thompson fell on that ground, and Luigi Mangione continued to shoot him. A person who did his homework while we just show up. So let me just say this. Charlie Kirk went down like a dog at Christy Norm's farm. Okay, this guy says he's Luigi Mangione. That's odd. Nonetheless, what I'm saying is these guys do their homework. This guy didn't just get on the roof up here in Utah. He didn't just get up on the roof and decide to shoot that day. It would be a good day. He went there before. I'm certain that he studied the websites. He studied the social media. He had his own ideologies. He knew who was speaking. He knew what time they were speaking. He probably was there while they were setting up before Charlie Kirk even arrived, before security even arrived. He probably looked at the security, knew how many campus security guards there were, knew how many crowd managers there were, knew the capabilities and the skills of the crowd of these people. You can look at a crowd event staff and tell if they're good or not, right? And the reason you can look at them, you'll see the way they dress. A lot of them. I mean, you've been to a lot of events where you've seen crowd security. I don't even have to explain, because I don't want nobody to think I'm trying to belittle people. But go to any event where crowds are being managed, and look at the people. A lot of times it's old people, or it's kind of in their senior years, because they know that they're going to show up for work. At least they're going to be on time and look good, but they don't look capable of really stopping anything. Pretty much is the customer service thing, and appearance of security, but it's not really security. I mean, everybody needs a job and everybody should be allowed to work a job. But when we're talking about critical events, who should be at these events, and the level of security knowledge or training or certifications they should have, that should be a very important part of it. So, what I say that to say, that's not how event security work. The people who put on events want the most for the least. Give me the people that you pay barely or just at minimum wage or a little bit above. They have the very minimum training. You may have some of those senior people who have been around for a long time because they will come to work and you can count on them and they will look good and they will represent your company good. But are they the best source of protection? Really, it's not. It's a customer service access control guard position. There's no real secure anything in that. Um, but nonetheless, that even that level of crowd management is needed. And I don't think we should call them security. We should really call it what it is. They should have crowd management certification and a crowd management shirt on. But we need a real level of security. But why don't we have a real level of security? Anybody know why we don't have a real level of security? Any just drop your comments and drop it in the comments. Why do you think we don't have a real level of security when we have these events? And I know you all know the answer. Oh, I know you all know the answer. There you go. It look like TNK because it costs money. It costs a lot of money if you want to pay for real security. So it's best to say, hey, let's get 120 of these crowd managers, put a security shirt on them. Most of them don't even have licenses. Some of it in some states is not even regulated. You know, and then if you get like law enforcement officers, depending on where you are, that's going to be $50 and up. If you get a real security company, that can cost you 100. I mean, 50 to 125 bucks for real security an hour. I mean, real security. But then you just like, okay, I don't want security to look like that. It uh looks too draconian. You know what I mean? It looks like, okay, man, these guys are enforcers. So you say we don't need all of that, so we want a softer look. But it's just, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to this, but I saw a lot of people that were like, yeah, man, these guys, their team messed up. And this is what I do. I review people, I review incidents. I can even review the Secret Service, and I feel very confident in my reviews, of, of these mistakes that people make. But I also see things that are good, and when I do see things that are good, please send me things that are good because I want to compliment people on the things that they do good as well, right? So because we can learn from the mistakes, but we can also learn from people who do good, right? But I think it's always easier for people to pick out the bad stuff. But so from time to time, send me some of that good video that y'all got, Um, but nonetheless, I see a lot of people saying, yeah, well, this wouldn't have happened if I was there, and these are the mistakes that the security team made. So I'm going to ask you, realistically, before I even answer these questions, before I even tell you if there were mistakes, um, and what those mistakes were, I want to see how smart you all are. Tell me what mistakes that you believe there were in this incident that allowed Charlie Kirk to be killed. See what y'all know. See how good are at this stuff. Uh-oh. What mistakes were made that you believe that allowed Charlie Kirk to be killed? Come on, man. I know we don't have all of these smart people on here and nobody's going to comment. Have y'all seen the Charlie Kirk video at least? Um, okay. Justin said, was there a threat assessment done beforehand? Appreciate that, Justin. I appreciate that. Justin is 100% right. He wants to, oh, snap. Yeah, Justin wanted to know if there was a threat assessment done. All right, and let's see. TNK said looked like only crowd control, but nobody on Charlie from the short clip. Okay, I appreciate that too. Now, on the contrary, there was somebody on Charlie, but let's just say he had 5 people on Charlie. All right, so I want to say how it happened. That's what I want to know. How did it happen, and was it possible to stop it from happening? So Um, so even if he had 5 or 10 people on him, he still would have been shot. And he did have a guy to his right, behind him to the right, had on sunglasses. So anybody else? All right, I'll just say that we had the same problems. Knowledge is everything. Okay, that's my man Vito. Vito is one of my number one subscribers. Vito, Justin is on here a lot. Definitely Bungie, um, Epstein. So look, all right, I'll tell you what. While you guys ponder that, because I don't want to give you the answers, right? This channel is for learning, but I want you guys to think through. I want you to think through what you saw in that video, and from an executive protection professional's perspective, what went wrong? What could they have done to prevent it? And could it have been prevented? That's the real question. All right. Maybe I'll put a poll up here while you guys ponder that. Okay. All right, TNK. I appreciate that. What's going on, Reg? That's my man Gunner. Uh me and Gunner, I'm certain that's Gunner. Um, we we work some crazy details. Matter of fact, we just finished. When I left him, I just came to the hotel and went right to sleep, man. I really did. I was worn out. Them 18, 20-hour days. And we had 3 details going on. My details finished, and the gunner on in his own company has 3 details going on. And he did an interview with a major news outlet with me today. Okay, Gunner. So we gonna get Gunner on. Like, you guys really are in for a treat. This guy, I've worked with him for since 2017. Um, as the vice president of my company, he branched out and started his own company. And man, we from this day we still rock and roll. But we did some major, major, major clients today in over the last week in Washington D.C. We finished up today. I don't even know how he's still up, but I asked him to join me on my live. Gunner TV. I said Gunner TV. I asked him to join me on my live, so apparently he's on here. I told him I'm going to talk for a few minutes, and then I'm going to bring him in, and we're going to talk about this Kirk. What's his name? Kirk. Damn, I forgot his name already. I didn't know the guy before he came. Charlie Kirk. That's right. I didn't know anything about Charlie Kirk before this happened. Well, number one, because I don't watch TV. I really don't watch TV. Anything that I need to know about mass shooters, like um, mass shooters, critical incidents, stuff like this, crime stuff that I can report on, something going on with the president or Secret Service. I put that in my news alerts, so I get those alerts and those alert onlys, so that I can stay focused on what I need to do on a regular basis. So I don't watch the news. I don't know, so I wouldn't know who Charlie Kirk was. I watched the Commanders game and the Packers today. The Commanders got whooped, by the way. I watched that game. I knew about 2 players on the Commanders team, Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin and Debo Samuel. So like 3 people. I know nobody on the defense because I don't watch sports. Right? I don't know who on the Wizards. I don't know very few stuff I know. I don't know who I know a lot of stuff. But so I didn't know who Charlie Kirk was what I'm trying to say. So when people started telling me to watch it, I watched it. I broke down the tape, and I could tell you blow by blow what happened in that tape. But there's a person who may be even better than me at telling you this. That is my brother, my friend Reginald Gunner Coswell. Like I said, we just wrapped up a bunch of details today. That oh man, oh man, are you serious? I was going to bring you on. So, man, Gunner says he was getting sick at the end of the detail. He got sick. He had to stand down. Let's see what tomorrow looks like. Okay, so we'll bring him on tomorrow. So he was getting sick while we were in the car. We even had to go to the pharmacy to get him some meds. So I guess he's tapped out. But nonetheless, what I want tomorrow, if he's feeling better, we're going to bring him on, because not only is Gunner a skilled operator, executive protection agent with over 20 plus years in the business. He was a Marine scout sniper. and he did that for many many years, and that's how he got the name Gunner. So there's no better person. I ain't gonna. There's no better person that I know that can talk about the sniper, the shot that he took, the possible round that he used, the skill level that he had. Um, so tomorrow, I'm hoping that we can get him on so that we can talk about this. So I want to go back and I'm going to look at some of these answers or some of these comments to see who actually could this have been prevented, and if so, how. Okay, so I'm gonna go back, read some of these comments. Okay, all right, there are a lot of comments. All right, all right, all right. All right, outer perimeter screening. Okay, why were there no protection on that roof? Okay, very good question, Cherie. I'm gonna read a couple of more, but I'm gonna come back to all of those and answer it. All right, the shooting couldn't have been prevented with a small detail. Great answer. Have it inside. Have it inside is another great answer. No active drone security. I like that comment too. Maybe if security didn't get with local law enforcement and campus security. 100%. Maybe I should answer these as I go. Because y'all have some good answers on here. All right. Uh who would have thought to put security counter snipers on the roof in a university? Okay. Kirk was popular, but not at the level of having security on roofs. So regardless of the ground security, wouldn't have stopped that act. Andrew, great answer. 7,000 people signed a petition against him speaking. Charlie Kirk is more YouTube shorts thing. Trust me, he's come across your feed before. Yeah, he got to be in the algorithm. I don't look at stuff like that, so it wouldn't come across my feed. The bug jumped. Okay, that's Gunner. Drone security. You guys have some great answers. Like, what this dumb? Just like this dumb. Okay. Um, 3,000 people at the event definitely need drone security. I believe that would have happened regardless. I like that question. I like that. Um, right. He said, yeah, I believe that would happen regardless if the budget wasn't there to mitigate it. Folks have failed to remember the most EP teams. That's right. Most EP teams do not have the Secret Service budget or ability to plan. Facts about that's right. That's right. Two things that divide people: government, nation. Yeah, so we don't talk about it. Government, nations, and religion. It ain't good. It does divide us, and it doesn't move anything forward. That's true. All right, so man, you guys had some really good comments. All of them were spot on. Number one, Justin said, "Was there a risk assessment done?" That would have prevented it. May have prevented it. Now, if a risk assessment was done, they would say, okay, risk assessment say, okay, these are the risks. If we go there, these are the possible things that could happen. Out of the risk, you figure out if there's a threat, if a threat arises. A threat would be somebody in particular or some kind of information saying that someone intended to harm him at one of these events. That would be a threat. That's no longer a risk. We have factual information. Maybe it's a social media post, maybe it's an email, maybe it's a voicemail, maybe it was a letter, maybe we know who the person was, but that is an actual threat. Somebody's said they're going to do something to him. Now, if they do something to them, then they'll be able to successfully carry it out. But a threat, once they threaten, we have to actually start to say, okay, this is this person's email account. Then we kind of go backwards. We're doing the investigative stuff to track down who the person is for real, for in real life. What's their real name? Where do they live? What's their IP address? Trying to narrow stuff down like that. Now, everybody doesn't have those resources, but depending on the level of client that you work with, you could have those resources. Okay. Um, so in this case, they said that a guy, I believe his name was Omar something, he said that he was going to do something to Kirk. Oh, he didn't say something to Kirk. He said if Kirk came there for that to that university for that event that something memorable or something like that was going to happen. It was almost like a cryptic threat, basically saying something was going to happen to Kirk, without saying it. And so that should have been taken as should have been taken as a real threat. Now we don't know this guy, so because we don't know him, we if you have any law enforcement connections, sources that you can track down, see if he's been entered in. He has any criminal record, if he has any firearms, see what vehicles are registered to him. Okay, if he's in the area, you can find out all of that stuff. You can start scrolling his Facebook, scrolling his TikTok, Instagram, X page, Twitter page, whatever you want to call it. You're gonna find out as much information as you can on that person. Now, if you believe that is a credible threat, then you need to do a couple of things. Number one, cancel the event. Even if they would have had 20 more EP guys, it wouldn't necessarily have prevented this. What they could have done was no, but here's the problem. Who's going to pay for all of this stuff? That's the real problem. And I saw somebody put that as an answer. Who's going to pay for this stuff? Kurt isn't that big of a guy. The university barely has enough to pay the campus police and the crowd management security that they have. Nobody's nobody's checking for snipers on the roof. Not unless only time. Excuse me, guys. Only time you would have been searching for a sniper on a roof or posting somebody on a roof if there was an actual threat. In that case, if you got to do that much, it's better to move the event into the inside. But of course, you can't cram 3,000 people inside of an auditorium. So I'm not sure if that event was paid for, if it was a free event put on by the university. But they're only going to be good as their resources. Now, when I teach in an executive protection school, I had I have the guys who learning the agents. When you're walking out of a building, you're walking from street level to rooftops. It doesn't matter if your person doesn't isn't a high threat isn't a high threat target. It could be somebody that's unknown. But if you don't get into the habit, create muscle memory when you walk out of a building, you look from street to rooftop, then you're easily easy target, and so is your principal and your teammates. So anytime I walk out of building in my own when I'm not even working, I look from the street to the rooftops. It could be somebody up there working on the rooftop, or it could be somebody up there with a sniper rifle. That's probably highly unlikely. But in this case, if you're working in executive protection, if you're working in executive protection and you scan from street level to rooftop and there's a risk involved or a threat involved, then maybe they discovered this guy on a rooftop because there's video that people are just regular people are saying, "Hey, is there somebody on the rooftop? Is that somebody on just like it was in Butler, Pennsylvania with President Trump? People are saying there's somebody on a rooftop." Okay. So scanning from street level or ground level to building tops all the time. That's what we do. That's what we do. This is what we train at the MVP School of Executive Protection. Now, how could this spread been prevented? Listen, we did a threat assessment. This guy said something major was going to happen at at the event, and it was going to be on the news or something like that. I'm telling that I'm advising my team, and we're advising our client. We did our research on the guy. He seemed like a little weirdo. These are the comments that he made on his social media page. We had Bob to Bob is a fictitious name. We had Bob to run his records through the investigative system. We found that drives a blue Ford F-150. He has a registered firearm license in the state of Michigan. Um, this is his criminal record. These are his addresses, etc., etc. This is how you break things down. Now, would they have found that on that particular guy? No. I mean, well, they would. I mean, more than likely, yes, because the guy made a comment on his social media page. So this is what we call open source and intelligence, OSINT, 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 open source intelligence. people actively on your team instead of walking around telling them, "Hey, no pictures. Back up, get back." Your ass should be sitting at a computer, somebody on your team on a computer looking through open source intelligence, getting information that could be a threat not only to your principal, but to you and your teammates. But a lot of people don't do that. Now, I can tell you again, I said there are some people because I saw their names who have been working on details with me this week. They are on here on his live. I've seen them on his live stream. I've seen their names pop up here. And they can tell you, we this weekend we work with some very high level teams in government and private security. You won't believe how many people on security teams came to the venue we were and tried to get through security with firearms with their principal, um, and got turned around at the door. They got turned around at the door. This is basic executive protection work. If you don't know this and you don't do this, you cannot call yourself any kind of executive protection agent. Any kind. You I've never shown up to a door or a venue and got turned around at the door because I had a firearm on me. I never got to the venue and got turned around at the door because if you're not on the guest list, be it you security or not, you cannot get into the building. Well, we were at that kind of event. We were at that kind of event. Uh, we were at that kind of event, and the people who were in this event, actually had shooters. The government agency had shooters inside of this building on 4 different levels, and they had at least 60 of their agents inside of this venue as well. So you got guys who coming with other government agents. If you're a government agent on duty, even though you didn't do your homework, if you show up with your firearm, nobody can tell you you can't go somewhere because you're actually working with a government official and you are on duty. But if you're an off-duty officer or a private contractor for a client, and you show up to somewhere, even though you're an off-duty officer, a law enforcement officer, you get turned around at the door. Sorry, man. What's your name? Okay, we got you, Mr. Jones. Oh, yeah, I'm his security. Okay, that's nice. You can't come in here. You are you armed? Yes, sir. You can't come in here. Well, I'm off duty police. I don't give a who you are. You can't come in here. You're not on the guest list and you got a firearm. But had the person come or called maybe ahead of time and say, "Hey, listen, I'm with XYZ VIP and we're coming to the event and I'm in security. Are there any special arrangements? Who's in charge? Who do I need to see? Are weapons allowed?" Those kind of things. Do you have a phone number? Can I leave my phone number? These guys don't even do that. They just show up and, "Oh, yeah, my client is in it." That's nice. You're not in here. You're not on this list. You have a firearm. Yes. I'm a police. No, that don't count. You have to respect the person's venue and the authority of that person. And you being an off-duty officer have gives you no that gives you no one up on anybody. Now it could work if you reached out to the people who were in charge beforehand, so they could say, "Oh, okay, well, listen, get you to play, and if you got a nice synergy, depends on who you are, they might even let you slide in." But a lot of people just show up. And again, when I talked about Luigi Mangione, he showed up 1.5 hours before Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO, ever stepped foot in on that block at that hotel. The assassin was there an hour and a half early doing his homework. And as security professional, you need to do that. Now, I'm not saying that these people in the Charlie Kirk thing didn't do that, that they didn't go there a day before, a week before, a month before, a couple of hours before. Because in certain situations, all of that could be relevant. You could do all of that. You could go a month before. A lot of times we've gone to places a year before and then went back maybe 30 days before we went again. right? The first one was to really get the layout how everything was going to go. The second one was, okay, we're preparing to go, so let's go back and make sure nothing has changed. All right, nothing has changed. Cool. Now, a couple of days before the principal and the close protection team gets there, the advanced team, we call it the advanced team. They go, and they're there a couple of days, and they're getting cars in place, resources in place, other private security contractors, relationships with police departments so that we can move like we need to move. So all of those things could, I mean, all of those things could happen. So Charlie Kirk's team could have done all of that. And this is why I'm going to say the only way that it could have been prevented is to counsel it or to put it in the inside. Because Charlie Kirk, I don't know how much money he has, but to get real executive protection agents, real guys who do, it's gonna cost you. It's gonna cost you, and especially if you're talking about armed. These guys, this might be $125 an hour per an hour, and no anybody in EP work ain't gonna say, "Well, yeah, 4 hours." Maybe no 1 or 2 hours. Um, they want to get paid a minimum of 6 to 8 hours. So you got to pay that per agent, and that could be a pretty costly bill. So nobody had, I mean, not nobody, but the average private entrepreneur, even if they had the money, they don't want to spend that kind of money for a security detail. So at best, what I've seen on security details is 1 to 3 people: a driver, an advanced agent. That's the agent that goes before, make sure everything's taken, or advance, make sure everything's is taken care of, and then the close protection agent or the body person. That's the person with the person. That's about most that you get. You look at Beyonce. Beyonce has one bodyguard, executive protection agent. That's Julius. And it's actually, I mean, the guy could be great, but I would never know because I would never put my principal in that type of situation where I'm pushing through crowds by myself, no pictures, please, this, that, and the other, holding a bag or a purse. That's what he does. He could be great at what he does. He has to be great in his own right because he's been working for Beyonce for 20 years. But damn, when I watch the videos, it doesn't look great to me. And in addition to that, I think some celebrities just don't like a lot of people around them. I get them. They only trust a few people, very small amount of people. I'm like that. I don't like a lot of people around me. So I just believe that that is unsafe for a person to have a person of such notoriety and be the solo bodyguard or executive protection agent. I just think that's really weird, man. So um I say I don't know what the reason is. It could be because Beyonce doesn't like people around her. It could be like, hey, I don't want to spend the money. But when you get into a corporate America, um, a lot of executives believe that these people have no idea who they are. That's what they believe. Whatever people's ideologies are, it could be whatever corporation it is. It could be a clothing company. People hate big pharma because medical expenses, bills, and medicine is too costly. People are mad with government, politicians. The dude who shot and assassinated the politicians in Minnesota, he had a hit list of 46 people that he was going to kill. 46 politicians that he was going to kill. And I'm just telling you guys, this is the new normal. This is the new normal. And no politician wants to spend. If you want to get a solid team for a year, or a politician or high profile executive, you want to get a solid team, it's going to cost you about at least $500,000 a year. And that's just on payroll. That's just payroll alone. Um, then you need vehicles. You need if you travel, the agents need to travel. So you got to pay for their flights. You also have to pay for rental vehicles or your vehicles for your fleet when you're in their home office or hometown. They have to pay for that. They have to pay for gas. They have to pay for food when they're on the road. So it could be $750,000 to $1 million just for a 5-man security team. So some say, hey, I could pay this guy 150, 200,000, and he'll be my solo bodyguard, and he'll take care of me. Honestly, when I see Beyonce, man, listen, when I see Beyonce, she be just the same walking through the joint on her own. I'm gonna be honest because it's like she's with nobody. You see, and maybe she wants to be around people like that. I don't know, but you can see him, Julius walking with her, and people walking up behind, kind of tap patting her and talking. I really don't get that. If the bodyguard is walking in front of you and people are walking behind you, walking up behind you, the bodyguard's playing the people in front. Hey, get back! You get back! No, no pictures. But the client is behind the person and people are walking behind the client. What's the purpose of having a damn bodyguard? It just really blows my mind. Uh, and the bodyguard that never even sees the people walking up behind their client. That's the worst part about it. So there's a couple of videos. I'll probably do a review on that when I get home and my audio is better. So my recommendation for anybody who's working as a single man bodyguard is not to have anything in your hand unless it's a weapon. I could carry this bottle of water in my hand because unbeknown we keep the top loose, or keep the top off at the last resort, that somebody jumps out or something without me striking them, I could throw this water in their face. It'll temporarily stun them, so that I can even go to a defensive action or get my client out of there, my principal client, whatever you want to call it. So water. I mean, but I prefer not to carry anything. No handbags, no shopping bags for my clients. People say, "Oh, that's customer service." I didn't come here for customer service. I came here for security. I'm not trying to. You do need to have a relationship with the people that you're working with, but ultimately, man, they need bags carried. They need to have an assistant carrying your bags. That's not because if I'm carrying your bags, I can't defend you. You know what I mean? If you want me to be an assistant and a bodyguard, maybe you need to pay me more or something like that. And so some people will say, "Hey, that man, I'm gonna carry the bag. They paying you to carry." Now it depends. That's also situational too, right? Um, that's also situational. If you're somewhere and you're out and it's remote and maybe it's an island or something, you don't expect anything like that, and you've done your risk assessment, and nobody knows you out there. They want you to carry a bag, shop picnic basket, then so be it. That's it. But when you're in a urban environment and you're walking around and your job is to protect somebody, why are you holding their bags? I mean, it could be me. Maybe I'm. Nonetheless, people need to know what their roles and responsibility are as executive protection agents. Let me read some of these comments. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See, you got good comments in here, man. Yeah, Rob said a rooftop at 150, 20 yards not to be looked at before he walked out is shocking. Complete lack of security that led caused this. I do believe that. Again, I always recommend looking from floor to from ground to rooftop, ground to ceiling or whatever. But ultimately, if you walk out and you check that and there's nobody up there, then that's cleared for you. All right. Not unless there's somebody specific assignment and say, hey, listen, we don't have the manpower to cover that rooftop, but let's position you somewhere where your responsibility is just to watch that rooftop because I don't feel comfortable about it. That's something that you can do. Now, the person who's watching that rooftop may not be able to stop the shooter up there, but they should at least be able to see the shooter and say, "Hey, listen, there's movement on that rooftop. I can't see, but there's somebody on that rooftop." And then now the team knows, okay, hey, do we making a decision now? Do we need to get the boss off the stage, right? Um, and that's just how it is. And sometimes that's what you have to do if you feel uncomfortable. It could be a cameraman on the rooftop, but I'd rather find out that it's the cameraman than it is a sniper. So if we need to move the boss off the stage until that is cleared, then so be it. But a lot of times when people do these, when people um it's just when people do shows or their client is speaking on a platform, you have some people who are just looking at the crowd. They're just staring down. the crowd to see any anomalies, any movement in the crowd, anything like that. That's what I do. I'm looking at what internal. Looking at everything. I'm looking at the movement of the crowd, rapid movement, people kind of communicating with each other. I saw somebody say, "Yeah, B turtle was saying there were some guys that were giving signals, right?" I saw that. I saw that myself. A guy that was actually to the right of Charlie Kirk. He was giving signals to somebody, and I don't know if that was the sniper or what, but the law enforcement is looking into those two guys regarding those signals that they were supposed to be giving. Um, but yeah, so the people are looking at the crowd. They're looking for anomalies in the crowd. Very few people are looking up. And even if you're this job so much, your attention can go so many places, right? That you could get stuck looking tunnel vision, looking at one thing too long, and that your eyes are not adjusting. So that's why it's better to assign people zones or area of responsibility. This is what I want you to look at. This is what I want you to look at. This is your area, and then that communication between the agents has to be spot on. Having good radios is a good thing, right? Depends on what radios you use. We use the Motorola TLK 100s because it's not line of sight. Line of sight means that it could be within a mile or so, depending on the range, and those are UFH or VHF signals. We use one that's a national. If you're in Alaska and I call you and I'm in LA, that you can just with the push button that you can hear because it's on a wireless platform. So making sure that your communications, doing your radio checks before you go out, everybody has the same equipment, everybody understands their area of responsibilities, and that you're communicating. Another thing that could have stopped this is people say, I've heard people say it, which is true. You could put up a big flag or a banner to cover if you were leery about a rooftop, and you'll see that in a lot of the presidential campaigns and speaking engagements. If they're worried about an elevated position where a sniper or assassin could take a vantage point, they will put some kind of big banner or flag up to obstruct that view so that there is no line of sight from that vantage point to where the speaker's speaking. So that is the way that could have been prevented. But again, you wouldn't take that precaution. One, that costs money, and two, you wouldn't take that precaution unless there was a threat. So somebody like Charlie Kirk, people are expecting just what happened, not the assassination, what happened to happen. Him to show up, throw t-shirts in the crowd, answer questions, debate with people, and then they get in the car and roll off to the sunset. That's what they expected to happen. But in this case, then this is the new norm. Listen, this is not mass shooters and assassinations on high profile people, corporate executives, and lawmakers, congressmen, congresswomen, senators. There has been nobody exempt from this. They are getting it at all levels. Congressmen, senators, House Speaker of the House of Minnesota, corporate executives, CEOs. They are doing their thing, and there are a lot of people who are following Luigi Mangione. They hail him as like folklore. It's like, man, this guy's he's definitely going to be a legend. People are saying, just like I've seen on here, I don't know Charlie Kirk, but people are saying that the man deserved to be unalive. That's what they're saying. They said that for United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. They said it for Charlie Kirk. There are people who are saying, you know what? I'm with the movement now. It was ideology. Now it's a movement. I'm gonna repeat what happened to them. And this is going. It has happened, and it's going to happen. Next week, you might turn on the TV and it be another executive. And so, if you are in the executive protection industry, if you want to get into the executive protection industry, right now, today is the best time in history to ever become an executive protection agent. You could check LinkedIn. I have internal stuff. We did work between the White House and the Capitol building all week this week. Um, there are job openings and for executive protection agents in Congress, um, that have there are boards of companies are saying, hey, listen, once upon a time, security was an option. Now it is a requirement. And boards of companies or corporations, they wouldn't pay for the security. If you wanted security as an executive, that would have to go in your pay package as part of your compensation. But it was coming out of your pocket. Now corporations are saying, okay, this is the must for our people. Okay, a couple of other things that need to change in the industry, and I'll tell you this, and I'll probably jump off in a little bit if you guys don't have a question, have any questions. Is that the days of car service, the regular car service, that's about to be over. And the reason I'm saying that it's about to be over, these because a lot of executives jump in Ubers. They used to jump in cabs. Some of them still do. But to call up a regular black car service to get them from point A to B when they are highly known executives is really troubling to me, and they don't. A lot of them don't understand why it should be troubling to them. I do not work. If somebody calls up my company, I do not work, and I do not let any of my agents go out with a company that a client that hires us and say, hey, we have our own driver. We're just looking for one agent to ride with the driver. Sounds nice. A lot of people on here will probably draw or jump all over that opportunity. But you have to understand a lot of these drivers don't know how to drive. There is some company that hire these guys. Oftentimes there's a language barrier. Their cars are dirty. Some of them, you got a Fortune 500 customer, and you got a guy with a sweater and tennis shoes, jeans and tennis shoes on. I've seen it all. So I guess the executives don't care, but they should care, because let's just say that coming out of the building, somebody started shooting, your principal gets hit, and you say, "Take me to the hospital." Where does this person take you to? This driver that you don't know. Where do they take you to? Uh, And this is the question, because these drivers don't have any skills, and then they need to get you in there in a hurry. They couldn't get you there in a hurry because many of them are relying on the GPS system. Many of them have a language barrier. Many of them don't know where the hospitals are, and if they did know where a hospital was, they wouldn't know the difference between a trauma hospital and a level 4 hospital. And that's a problem. If I tell you what it was, a level 1 hospital, you need to tell me what it is and where it is, because that's the place that has ICU, the best surgeons, the best equipment, the best life support that's going to keep your ass alive. And they roll you up to a place where that put casts and repair fractures and for broken bones, right? So there's different levels of the hospital, but the driver needs to know that, and then he. Oh, what happened to my? Oh, I don't need to be for him to be explaining to him where I need to go and why I need to get there, and him or her pulling over to put the shit in the GPS. So I only work with people that I work with. I need to know their skills. I need to trust them. I need to know that they know how to navigate the city. And DC and New York is even worse. I drive in both of those cities, DC and New York. If you don't know those cities, you could be going around blocks for days. So, traffic gets during the inauguration, we had a high profile client, and traffic was backed up, and I was on YouTube, I believe it was YouTube, and I was, maybe it was Instagram, and I was giving people how to navigate the city, because I've been in this city for 50 years, 54 years to be exact. And the city, once the National Guard came in and Capitol Police, and they started setting up those barriers, if you didn't know how, people sat in traffic for 3 hours to go one block for the most part, and just were stuck 2 and 3 hours. And instead, I just went all the way up, went all the way across. So anyway, man, this is a good live, but I got a call coming in, and I'm gonna have to take that call because it's work related. But nonetheless, being able to navigate the city. So, you need a good advanced guy. That's the person that's going to get the information. You need a good driver who is trained and certified, and you also need a good guy in close protection. And the advanced guy, your advanced guy, I say guy, it could be a guy or girl. That person needs to also know the close protection person's job. And just in case you need to switch places, right? Information and communication is going to be key. But nonetheless, only way this could have been prevented is one, you could have moved it inside. Two, you could have canceled it. Three, you could have put up banner to obscure the vision from a vantage point of a sniper or assassin. And at last but not least, they could have canceled it. I don't know if the guys did their risk assessments. I don't know if they did a threat assessment or if they identified that the shooter as a threat. I'm not sure if that happened, but if they did happen and they did have that information and they didn't act on it, even counseling it, putting up some other resources, moving it inside, then these guys were remiss in their duties. 1 second. So they were remiss in their duties. So that is really that is really um that's really it, guys. Not gonna oh wow, this thing won't stay up. I can elaborate more, but I'm gonna come back on tomorrow and we're gonna talk about this at depth. All right. So thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. Check out the article at the Washington Post that about the MVP School of Executive Protection. Make sure you check that out. Um, and I also will be having another article probably coming out tomorrow or the next couple of days. So make sure you check that out too as well. All right. And again, if you want more information about my executive protection class, I'm gonna put the description. I will put the link to in the description below. All right, appreciate you guys. Take care. Peace. I'm out.